Hey, good afternoon. My name is Alan Thomas. I'm founder of Rethink Dieting, and today I want to talk to you about weight loss and travel and what they have to do with each other. And before I get started, I always want to give you perspective of where I come from. In 2017, about almost 7 years ago now, I stepped on the scale and I saw 304 pounds staring back at me on March 2nd, 2017. I was 55 years old at the time. I had been in the senior market life insurance business for a very long time, been in thousands of homes. And why that's significant is senior market means people pretty much over age 50, over age 65, really. And and one thing I thought about it as I stood on that scale, seeing a three in the at the beginning of my scale number, was that I realized I'd never met a man that was 65 years old, and I was 55 at the time, that was more than 100 pounds overweight. Now they're out there. I've met some since, but boy, they are unicorns. There are not many of them. And the reason there are not many of them is unfortunately because they're usually dead. They didn't make it. And so what it meant for me that morning as I stood on the scale is that I would be known as my wife Angie's first husband. Now we had just celebrated our 31st wedding anniversary the day before, and realized there'd likely be another guy calling that she call husband, that she'd be with, she'd be spending her years with, that I should have been around to spend with her. That my kids, we've got four children together, and that those children who are all grown now, but they would be calling another guy dad, because I couldn't put the fork down, because I couldn't do what was necessary to get the weight off. And while we had a successful marriage, I've been a successful dad, had success in business, I just hadn't been able to be a success in this one area until I finally got that leverage on myself I've been looking for, which was that I knew I'd be a dead man if I didn't do something about it in less than 10 years. And so I made a commitment. I went on a very public journey that led to me releasing. I call it releasing because if you lose things, you want to find them again. So, but I lost or released, however you want to say it, 129 pounds in 260 days. And my wife actually went on the journey. She had some weight to lose too. She released 63 pounds in 190 days. And I don't say any of this to impress you at all. I should have never been overweight like that to start with. Neither should my wife. But what I'm saying is, it was never the diet. It was always the decision. And then a couple of years after that, well, really almost immediately, people started asking me for help, say, hey, would you help me lose weight? And I really didn't want to help people, because it was just kind of silly to think that somebody needs to be told what to eat or what exercise to do to lose weight. We all know it. I knew it. I'd been on dozens and dozens of diets over and over and over again, and I could have written books on diets. I really could have. Angie and my wife Angie and I added up how many different diet and exercise books that I'd read, and it was approaching 70 or 80. I don't remember. It was a bunch, and different plans I've been on, and they all worked. The problem was I didn't stick to any of them, not long term, and so it was. While you have to change your nutrition, obviously, to lose weight, you should exercise if you're physically able to. But that's not really the challenge. The challenge is the thinking. It's between the ears. It's what I struggle with. And I noticed that a common theme among the people that were asking me for help is they really were not asking me. They didn't want to hear the hard stuff. They wanted to hear that I had a solution that would be easy, that they could reach their ideal weight with very little effort, so that they could go to the land of eat as much as you want, whenever you want, and whatever you want. And guys, I got news for you. That land don't exist, not in this lifetime for me. And I've never met anybody that did. It's a decision. It's a decision you have to make. And so I tell you all this just so you know, I know what it feels like to sit between the elbows of a morbidly obese man. That was me. That was me. And I vowed never to go back. And we since then have developed our process called Rethink Dieting. It was this weight loss thing was always available to me. It was always available to me. I could have done it 1,000 times before, but what happened was I would always stop short. And in what really strikes me And the reason I'm doing this live today, and several of these live videos that are be coming up, is that it was always the leverage I had on myself. I noticed one thing among people that really lost weight, a common denominator, they had leverage on themselves. Some people call that a reason why. Some people call it a lot of different things, but it was leverage. And Archimedes, who was around like 500 years ago, I don't even know. He's a famous guy from another country, but he said, he was a scientist, and he said, if I have a lever long enough and a place to set it, I can move the world. And I think that really applies to weight loss. It does. Leverage on yourself. And so a lot of people, we talk to, Angie and I talk to dozens and dozens of people every week that struggle with obesity, struggle with overweight, and have all these different obstacles that they've come into. And I want to talk about that today. The obstacle I'm talking about today is this really, it's not so much an obstacle as just this pain of emotional pain, physical pain of not being able to travel. So many people, or when they travel, it's very hard to do it. And we just got back from a trip visiting our son in California last month, and I noticed a lot of people. I'm always watching it, not to shame people, but just it interests me to know what people are going through, because I can empathize with them because I've been there, and getting on an airplane. Wow. I remember every time I get on an airplane now, it's just funny. I put on that seatbelt and I pull it out, and it's got so much room left over. And it's such a good feeling. It is to be able to do it, because those seats, if you're in first class, you got a little bit more room. But if you're in coach, you just don't have a lot of room. They're not made for people that are the least bit overweight, especially obese like I used to be, or morbidly obese like I was. They're made for people that are thin and average height. The airlines just make them that way. And this isn't a condemnation on the airlines or anything, but it's just such a nice feeling to pull that seatbelt and have all that excess room to move in there. Because I remember what it was like getting on a plane and trying my darndest. Number one, when I sat down on a plane, if I was sitting beside somebody I didn't know, I know they were not pleased that I was the guy that was sitting beside them because I was taking up more than my seat. I was going to be in their space, not intentionally, just because of my obesity. And then when it came to buckling that seatbelt, when it came to buckling it, I would be willing to be very uncomfortable in how tight that was, just so I didn't have to push the button above my head for the stewardess and say, or steward, and say, I need a seatbelt extender. Oh my gosh, that was the most humiliating thing in the world. And I would literally, because most of the time I could get it buckled. Sometimes I couldn't. I had to get that seatbelt extender, but most of the time I could buckle it just barely have enough in there that I buckled it, and I was able to get in that seat, and I would literally be uncomfortable the entire flight. When I had this, when they say buckle your seatbelts, I'd have to go through that agony again. I don't know which was worse, the challenge of buckling it or the challenge of leaving it buckled. And so I know if you don't struggle with your weight, this probably won't make sense to you, but it really is. It's just, but travel, that first leg of the trip, it's the traveling and then going through the airport. I mean, how much shame it is to have to be carted around where I never had to do that, but I was very close to needing one of those carts to carry me around because of my obesity. And I want you, I didn't have any real significant health challenges yet during that time that I was obese, but it was coming. But the mobility of just being able to walk around, because the flights, they always come in one. If you have to connect, like we live near Jacksonville, Florida airport, and when you connect there, when you go fly to Jacksonville, almost every flight is a connection flight. So you're going through airports like in Houston or Denver or Charlotte or Atlanta or wherever, and you're having to hustle through there with an extra 100 pounds on me, with an extra 50 pounds on you, with an extra 200 pounds on you. And it's next impossible to go through that airport quickly without some assistance. It's embarrassing. It's painful. It is painful. You're out of breath. there's just all these things and it's just, and then when you get out of the airport, when you fly and you get through the seatbelts, nowadays you're going in vehicles. Typically people are taking Ubers or Lyfts. You're using shared transportation rather than taxis. And so you have to order a bigger car. Well, a smaller car, you might get stuck in a small car and it's super uncomfortable because if you're like I was, had an extra 100 pounds, man, I don't want to be shoved into a little car. I want a big car. Big cars are more expensive. You pay more for everything, and not just the expense, the physical expense on the body and the emotional expense on the mind, but also out of your pocketbook. And it's just, and then when you think about carting luggage around, having to carry bigger stuff weighs more. You have to carry more luggage. You can't ever, I almost could never get on a plane without having to check baggage. I mean, it's just all these things come with it. And then the packing for the trip. I remember when Angie, she would go, I would always be up another size, when I was going through, when we were getting ready to travel. I remember a trip to Hawaii that I won a trip in my insurance business, and it was a beautiful trip. And the pictures from that trip, oh my gosh, I was about a 48 waist. And I remember her buying 42s or 44s, which really, and I was just hoping I could wear them, and they were too tight. And I couldn't wear those. I had to wear 48s, 48 size slacks. And that's not the circumference, wasn't the circumference of the biggest part of my waist. That's just what I could shove myself into. And it was just such a dreading thing. And I remember dreading packing because I knew I'd have to face the fact that all those clothes from last year probably didn't fit because they're too tight. And in just it's this humiliation. And I'm not trying to humiliate anybody. I'm just saying, I understand. I know what that's like. It's not fun. It is not fun to do that and go through that. And then just how that zaps the confidence out of you. How you don't want it when you get to a place, you don't want to be seen. It's just you. And if you are seen, if you're like me, I used to make jokes about it all the time. I would get on an elevator. Angie said I made all these jokes on the elevators, and I didn't even remember it because it was so unconscious that I did it, because it was just my way of coping with the fact I knew that there was something that I felt like I was failing. And so and then when you're traveling, when you're just going places, you have to be conscious of how far you're going. If you have to walk a lot, the kind of, and just balance. I mean, I certainly couldn't do the things if there were activities, if like we were going to theme parks or something like that. God knows I couldn't get on a ride because they would ask me to get off because I was too big, and I have to do what I call the walk of shame. And get off the ride with my family, or maybe the people would go out ahead of me and I couldn't keep up with them because I was just so big. And all those things, when all that gets in your head, it just makes traveling no fun. And then you just don't want to do it. And you've got family that wants to travel. You've got, memories that you could be making, but you just don't want to do it because of the fact of the obesity. I get it. I have been there. I have walked in those shoes, and I will never go back again. I can tell you. And because I want you to understand, there is something better on the other side. There is getting on an airplane and having, like this much left over on the seatbelt, the regular seatbelt that you've got, and you get on the plane, going through the airport quickly and being able to walk faster than everybody, getting to a destination, not worried about whether you got a big car or the little car, packing, not having to carry all the big clothes, that the confidence that you have because you're not worried about being seen. You're not worried about what you're eating at a restaurant because nobody's going to be sitting there thinking that, oh my gosh, they're still eating and they're already so big. You're not worried about hiding from pictures. You're not worried about those things because you've gotten the weight off, and it's such a nice feeling. I just want to tell you there's hope. Because here's the thing: if I can do it, you can do it. There is hope. Absolutely, there's hope. And so I say all this not to dredge up pain for you, because I know you're thinking about your weight. If you're watching this and struggling with it, I get it. You're thinking about that. But to just give you encouragement that there's hope. I mean, we've seen it in our Rethink dieting program. I mean, we've seen people who didn't believe they ever could lose weight that are losing weight. We see it over and over again. And it's not the diet, it's the decision. It's not what you have to change what you eat? Of course you do. Just like I said, is exercise preferable? Absolutely, if you're healthy enough to do it, but you don't have to do crazy to lose weight. And so if you haven't had a chance to, I want to invite you to go to rethinkdieting.com, rather. Start there. Rethinkdieting.com. That's on the screen, where you can watch our 5-step strategy where we walk through the 5 shifts that you have to make to get the weight off. And one of them it has to do with leverage. It has to do with that leverage, like Archimedes talked about, is really understanding why you're doing it. But there's some other strategies in there. And we've had people lose a lot of weight just watching that free training. So go there. If you haven't seen it, I implore you to go there. If you struggle with 25, 50, or 100 plus pounds of excess weight, go there. Don't wait, especially here before the holidays. This is the time to be taking action, not after, when you've added an extra 5 or 10 pounds. And then if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and you know that you need help, you know that you can't do this alone, jump on a call with us. Me and my team, we take these calls. You go to transformmyfuture.com/apply. That's on the screen, transformmyfuture.com/apply, and book what we call a breakthrough session. Now, when you go there, you're going to come to a really simple form. It's take about 4 minutes to fill out. It gives us an idea of how bad your struggle with weight is, what's going on there, and helps us prepare for the call so that we can really give you the best options available to you. Then after you go there, you'll come to our calendar. Our calendar does fill up pretty quickly, so if you don't see a good spot, keep trying on there. But go to transformmyfuture.com/apply, because that call is totally free. People ask me all the time, why do you do these calls? Because we obviously want to help. I mean, we do. I know what it's like to be obese, but there's a lot of people that want our help, and they know they don't want to do it alone. So that call is about the truth. So if you're coming there with coping mechanisms, leave them at home. It's not to embarrass you, shame you, but number one, we want to know how bad your struggle with weight is. We are going to get crystal clear on how bad it is. What is it impacting in your life? How committed you are to solve this problem with overweight or obesity or morbid obesity, wherever you are in your walk with your journey on help. And then third, if we even think that we're an option to help you, because we don't say this to be coy, but we're not right for everybody. But I can tell you, we know how to get weight off. And we know how to get weight off to where people have success with it. We've seen it. We've done it over and over and over again. But book transformmyfuture.com/apply. And we'd love to get on the phone with you and help you with that. But do it now. Don't wait. Don't wait, because you don't know when it's going to be too late. And there's a time coming when it's going to be too late. And just do that and pay attention. There's something better for you. So I just want to say that and encourage you. And I look forward to speaking to you on